Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the podcast of the Players NIL, where we make name, image, and likeness, NIL, relatable and attainable for all. My guest today comes to us from the beautiful country in Iowa. Yes, that is part of the United States.
It's part of the United States. Nobody even knows about us.
Scott Garvis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it. Always love sharing stories about athletics and how it can help people.
Well, I'm excited to dive into what you work on in Scott Garvis, consulting. But
sure.
we always start the podcast with two questions, and it's really simple. I use two words: sports and athletics. And sports is the fandom part. You know, what first game you went to with grandpa, your mom, your dad. Then athletics would be your participation. So normally sports comes first because you're 2, 3 years old. You go to a game, you become a fan. So tell us about your childhood and how you became a sports fan.
Oh, sorry, lost you there for a second.
That's okay. So tell us about your childhood and how you became a sports fan.
Well, my dad was a coach, so I mean, I had no choice, but other than to love sports. My dad coached football, so I was on the sidelines at practice every day, in the gym every day. So I was what you call a gym rat. I was all the high school kids called me tag along when I was a little kid, because I was always just riding my dad's coattails and always there at practice, and learned a lot about athletics and the importance of athletics especially for high school kids and how it can benefit them. And now, getting into my career as a coach and athletic director, it even makes those times that I shared with my dad and my family in sports that much more memorable, and it's special moments from my youth.
What sports did your father coach?
He was a football coach and wrestling coach, and actually ended up coaching college wrestling for a number of years.
Well, I'm not sure if there's two sports that Iowa is known for more than football and wrestling, so that makes sense.
Right. Well, wrestling especially.
Yeah.
And I killed my dad because I flip-flopped. I was scared to death to tell my dad my 9th grade year that I wanted to play basketball. So my 9th grade basketball coach told my dad that I wanted to play basketball. And then I flip-flopped. Freshman year, I played basketball. Sophomore year, I wrestled. Junior year, played basketball. Senior year, I wrestled.
Okay. Multi-sport athlete.
I drove my coaches crazy.
So you got into the second part of the question, which is athletics and your participation. So you're little tag along the coach's son. Actually, I can relate to that. You're playing sports in high school. Tell us about how you use those experiences and what opportunities they created for you.
Well, I played football, basketball, wrestled, played baseball in high school. And obviously it had a huge impact on my life. I had a lot of great coaches that poured greatness into me every day, whether I probably deserved it or not. And there was probably some days I probably didn't, but had a huge impact on me. And obviously it's why I do what I do. I want to provide, the student athletes I work with as a coach and as an athletic administrator, just like I got when I was in high school. So really just about giving back. And especially in the athletic administrator role, is providing ADs and athletic administrators and coaches the tools to teach our kids on how sports can make it, how it can teach them life skills and all the relatable skills that they're going to use when they get into the business world or whatever they do, whether it's being a great mom or a great dad or a great husband or a great wife or a great partner, whatever that looks like. I'm hoping that our coaches within our schools can provide our student athletes with, life skills that are going to help them far beyond sports.
Well, it's right in line with what my company, the Players NIL, does. And we, we're focused on a broad-based educational platform for student athletes, their families and coaches around name, image, and likeness. Yeah. Being an athletic director is very complicated today. You have, I can imagine the pressures that they're under from parents, administrators, community members. Everybody wants to win now. Everybody wants their son or daughter to play. But
Yeah.
go back, let's talk about your consulting business. So what are the
Yeah.
pressure points that you see athletic directors have to deal with today? Not just name, image, and likeness, but what are the other
Right.
pressure points and how do you guide them and what do you do for them?
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest thing I see for ADs is just time. There's not enough time. And I think from when I began being an athletic director to what it is now is like so much more. So I feel like ADs at high school level are doing everything that college athletic director is doing. Maybe not on as grand a scale, but they are the SID for their high school. They are the fundraising mechanism for high school. They are the scheduler for their high school. They are the event manager for their high school. So they've got all these roles. And then typically for high school ADs, then they're probably teaching, or they're probably an assistant administrator for the high school, or they've got another job that they're doing on top of, which I feel like an athletic director is a full-time role. Just like our coaches have become full-time, you know, our football coaches, our basketball coaches, our soccer coaches, they're full-time employees as a soccer coach. And then they've got their other job, whatever that might be, if they're a teacher or if they're somebody within our community that runs a business. There's just a ton of things that are involved with that now. And now with NIL and students having the opportunity to generate some revenue off of their name, image, and likeness adds another layer, another complicated layer to what they're doing each and every day already. So how can I equip athletic directors to have the time to do that, number one, but then the tools to go out and help them fundraise, help them manage their athletic department efficiently. So at the end of the day, they can still go home and be husbands and dads and, you know, whatever they need to do after school. And then have the complicated job of doing all those different roles within their high school. So how can I come in and help them come up with a strategic plan, give them some tools and strategies that are going to help them at the end of the day, provide their student athletes and their coaches with a great experience.
I talked to an athletic director recently and she told me, a high school athletic director, and she told me that her biggest challenge was recruiting quality coaches, that there's a crisis in coaching now. How did we get there? What happened?
Well, I think a lot of it comes to, Mark, is just the pressure that our coaches are under. Every kid has to play. Every kid wants to get a college scholarship. And I don't know that it always used to be that way. And I think we need to do a better job of educating parents that their academics is going to get them far more money than they will in the athletic arena. And as you know, Mark, that, you know, those kids that go and get the full ride scholarships are, you know, elite athletes. And I don't always know that our parents know what elite athletes look like, and you know, not only what they look like, but what they do. Like if our kids are in playing video games for a couple hours a day, they're probably not going to be a Division I athlete. Because I always talk about the 1%ers. There's the 1% of kids who work so hard that they're doing everything they can to maximize the abilities they have, and they make it to that Division I level. And then you got that 1% of kids who are just phenomenal, gifted athletes, physically gifted athletes. And I think you see both of those in there. And I've seen both of them come through the schools that I've had the opportunity to be an athletic administrator at. I've seen kids that are super, super athletic that get the chance to go on to be a Division I athlete. And I've had those kids who, like, coach will look at them off the hoof and they'll be like, well, that kid's never going to make it. But they're the hardest working kid and they make it happen somehow, some way. They go out and make it happen. I had student athlete just got to go and watch him play his senior night at Drake University. And I remember a Division II coach came in and he looked at me. He's like, hey, coach, who's your good players? And I pointed out Garrett Sturtz, number 4, Newton High School. And he looked at him, he kind of scoffed. And I was like, hey, coach, I'm just telling you who's a good player. But you're the basketball coach. And then he got done with the game. He came up and said, hey, I'm really sorry, that kid can play. And now nobody said he was going to be a Division I athlete. And now he's, you know, doing really well on a very successful Division I basketball team. And I think they're 24-6 right now. And and hopefully have a good chance to go to the NCAA tournament and get to see him play a couple more games. I'm excited to see how he finishes up his college career.
Yeah. So I have had this, theory for a long time, and I'm in the process of writing a book. The title of the book is 12-Year-Olds Win for All the Wrong Reasons. And it's about
Yeah.
the kid that's the tallest kid at age 12 that is, he's the leading scorer in basketball.
Yeah.
He's the biggest kid on the football team, probably the quarterback.
Yep.
He's the pitcher in baseball, and how sometimes that isn't a natural transgression or transformation from age 12 to 16.
Right.
Things change, right? Kids grow and change,
Yeah.
and their mental status, in terms of their commitment to what they're doing. So I totally get that. One of the things that has happened recently is that name, image, and likeness has come around, and for those states that have allowed it in high school, I believe that there's an equal playing field. And I just wrote a book called NIL for All, because you talked about the top 2%. 1% is gifted, 1% is just going to work their tail off to get there. But what about the 98%? I still think NIL is an opportunity. Tell me what you're seeing across. You talk to thousands of athletic directors. Tell me what's happening in the high school space in terms of name, image, and likeness.
I think you're going to see a lot of kids and continue to see more states. And Mark, you talked about it. Not all states are allowing it, but I think at some point, every state is going to have NIL at high school level. So I don't know that it's like, that's not going to happen. So if our AD's out there thinking, well, it's not going to happen to our state, it's going to happen. Whether it's because they just go out and do it because it's inevitable, or if they got to go through court cases to get to that, that might be the case too. But I think it's inevitable that every state's going to have it. And how can our kids then do that? Are they hosting their own camps in the summertime? Are they? I think 98% of it, Mark's going to be social media influence. I think that's where you're going to see a lot of kids are going to make money just off of their influence off social media. So whether that's Instagram, TikTok, whether that's YouTube, you've seen a ton of kids make money off of that. And why not have that opportunity for those kids to make money off of those opportunities and to show the other skills that they have other than just being an athlete. I think it kind of opens up the eyes of people that to show that, hey, these kids are entrepreneurs. They're learning life skills. They're going to help them far beyond. And some of our college athletes might make more money when they're in college than when they go and do their actual profession. And I think we'll see that as this continues to morph into whatever it's going to continue to look like for high school and college athletes. But you continue to see high school athletes go out there and utilize social media to generate revenue for themselves. But hey, are they doing it the right way? Do they have an LLC? Do they know how to market and brand themselves? Do they know all the things on the back end that they need to set up? And I've seen a number of kids already here in Iowa who have not gone and set up their LLC. They have not done their homework, and they're signing contracts that are actually detrimental to their own image and likeness. And so how can we protect kids from those people out there just trying to make money off kids and protect our student athletes and protect our schools from those people out there that are going to try to take an advantage of this market, which I think is going to be huge revenue market for people to make money off of. And how do we help our kids navigate through that? And I think as athletic administrators, we need to have a knowledge of that so we can help our kids.
Well, you couldn't have said it better, my friend, because that's what we teach is life skills, And I tell people all the time, there's a deal out there, maybe $100 a month. There's very few $1 million athletes, just like you talked about, very few top level Division I athletes in the average school district. So life skills are important, networking, job creation, business development. So with that framework now, Scott, as you talk to athletic directors and administrators and state organizations, what is your guidance about how they should proceed, or what should they do to make sure that they stay ahead of this wave, which is inevitable?
Well, I think it's you got to plan, you got to be proactive, you got to educate yourself on what this looks like. So how can you as an athletic director to find those resources available for you to learn about this, and then provide those resources to your student athletes and parents to make sure that they're making good decisions? And how can you educate your student athletes and your parents on how to make those good decisions, give them strategies in which they can go out, or, hey, here's your toolbox, parents and players. if this is what you want to do, if you want to go down this NIL path, then hey, I want you to make the best decisions possible for you and make sure that you don't get taken advantage of. So how can we provide our parents and student athletes those tools so they can be successful in that NIL journey, no matter where that's at? And I think we're going to continue to see our high school students, signing NIL deals, and then how does that leverage them then into college? And how do they set themselves up for success before they get to college so that they know how not to get taken advantage of, or here are the things that I need to do. I moved from Iowa to North Carolina. Can my business then, for my LLC I created in Iowa, then still be in North Carolina? Those are the kind of things that our kids need to think about as they cross state lines, and different state laws are different everywhere. So how do we educate our students that, hey, you've got a nice broad framework, but also knowing that every state's going to be a little bit different?
Yeah, I just talked to someone this morning that told me that, some of the guidelines in some of these states are getting a little bit crazy because they're wanting the student athletes to actually submit copies of their deals to the athletic director to keep on file. And the athletic directors are like, I don't know how to read these things. I don't know. I'm not the
Contract
gatekeeper.
law.
Yeah, I'm not the gatekeeper on this, and so we're putting, again, undue pressure on people that aren't educated and informed, and it's not their job, quite honestly. So it's a complicating issue. And, in the college level, we're finding out now that running these booster club organizations, which they call collectives, are a lot more difficult than people thought. It's not just donating money. There's an operation to it. Let's talk. Last question I have for you is about private schools and high school. So we understand that there's been recruiting going on. They've been junior colleges to some degree, mini colleges to some degree.
Yeah.
It's getting even greater as the parents' pressure and their expectations for little Jimmy and little Sally get larger. How do you treat a private school, parochial school administrator versus a public school administrator? Do you have a difference in how you approach them?
You know what? Honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like they're similar. I think our private school athletic directors are probably dealing with or have probably some resources that maybe our public school athletic directors don't have. But I think you continue to see public schools are going and getting development directors. So I think you're seeing a trend where high schools and school districts understand that there is a science to this. There is some, hey, we could generate some revenue off of our athletic department, not only maybe just for athletic, but school wide. And how can we work together with our athletic departments to make that happen for our school districts? And then I think there's a huge part of that school districts need to do a better job of monetizing and owning their brand instead of giving it away all the time. I see that continually, that our schools give their brand away or give their digital assets away instead of taking those and then generating dollars for their school. So not only do I feel like our student athletes need to learn about name, image, and likeness and monetizing their own brand and image, but our high schools need to do the same. So I think there's some synergy there too, where not only our student athletes need to learn about that, but our schools need to learn about how we can better monetize our brand. And our individual brand, not only as a school, but our individual students, how do they do that? And I think our student athletes can learn that now in high schools. I don't think that we probably do a good enough job of teaching our kids how to brand themselves and how to be entrepreneurial in what they do. And then they get to college and I don't know that they don't know how to do that yet. And that's scary for me, because I think we need to prepare kids better than what we're doing right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an awesome take on that. And I get it. And, I'm not an education expert, but I do believe that life skills should be more prevalent in high school than some of the subject matter that we grew up with. I'm not sure that, Russian literature is as important as financial literacy for the average student, right? If you want to study Russian literature, go for it, but you're probably still going to need to understand financial literacy during that period of time. So, how can people find you? How can they connect with you? How can athletic directors tap into your resources?
You can visit my website, and it's just scottjarvisconsulting.com. You can please connect with me on Twitter. I'm very active on social media. My Twitter handle is @PocketAD, POCKETAD _. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn also. It's just Scott Jarvis, and it's Garvis. So soft G. Sounds like J, it's a G.
Awesome. I love it. Well, look, we're similarly aligned. It's about education and empowering student athletes, coaches, families, administrators to navigate this new opportunity. And I do believe it's an opportunity. I think, the power of the athletes has never been greater. The opportunities have been greater, but the pitfalls have never been deeper, right? The consequences are greater. And I say to people all the time, you can spend years building a brand up and you can crash it really quickly. We know many examples of that. And, preventative maintenance on brand building is important. And I think what you're doing is great. And I want to say congratulations. And I'm sure that your clients really appreciate what you do.
I hope so.
That's all we can do is work hard, right? So
that's right.
You've been a great guest. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your experience. We wish you nothing but the best, Scott. And thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.